You ever plan a trip to a national park, maybe a museum, only to get there and find it's just closed? Well, if you have, you've run smack into the most visible sign of a very American political drama, the government shutdown. So let's break down what that really means. Right? That one little word on a sign is where it all starts for most of us. But behind it, oh, there's a super complex, high-stakes political game going on. In this explainer, we're going to pull back that curtain and show you exactly how and why the US government sometimes just stops working. And believe me, this isn't just some abstract idea. As of today, November 8th, 2025, the government has been partially shut down for more than 39 days. Yep, you heard that right. We are living through a record breaker. So how in the world did we get here? And what does it actually mean when the government shuts down? Okay, so first, let's get into the mechanics of it. How does an entire government just grind to a halt? It's actually a pretty straightforward process, even if it is a bit dramatic. So think of it like a really simple pipeline. Step one, Congress controls the purse strings, so they pass bills to fund everything from the military to national parks. Step two, the president signs those bills, which basically opens up the tap. And only then, step three, can all the government agencies legally spend that money to operate. Simple, right? But what happens if that pipeline gets blocked? Well, that's where this key piece of law comes into play, the Anti-Deficiency Act. You can think of it as the legal kill switch. It says, flat out, if Congress hasn't approved the money, agencies cannot spend a dime. Period. This is the law that literally turns the lights off. Now, here's a wild little piece of history for you. This law, it wasn't always so strictly enforced. Before 1980, if funding ran out, agencies kind of just kept going, assuming Congress would pay the bill eventually. But then, a couple of legal opinions from Attorney General Benjamin Civiletti in the early 80s changed everything. He argued for a super strict reading of the law, and in doing so, he basically created the modern shutdown as we know it today. So if there's a law that forces this to happen, why do politicians keep letting it happen? And that gets us to the most important point. In our politically divided world, shutdowns are almost never an accident. They are a strategy. This analogy just nails it. A shutdown isn't about someone forgetting to file paperwork. Nope. It's a high-stakes game of chicken. When the parties are totally deadlocked on some huge issue, one side can use the government funding deadline as a weapon, as leverage, to try and force the other side to give in. Now, to avoid driving right off that cliff, Congress often pulls out a tool called a continuing resolution, or a CR. Let's be honest, it's basically political duct tape. It's a temporary funding patch that keeps the government running for a few more weeks or months. It buys more time for talking and, kicks the can down the road. So let's take a quick look back at history, because it really shows how this tactic has grown into this powerful and frankly more and more common political weapon. When you look back, you see these major shutdowns have become these defining moments of political war. In the mid-90s, you had a 21-day standoff over budget cuts. In 2013, a 16-day slugfest over funding the Affordable Care Act. The last record holder was the big 35-day shutdown in 2018 over border wall funding. That is, until right now. And the cost of these fights? It's just massive. That number you're looking at, that was the estimated economic hit from that 35-day shutdown a few years back. We're talking $11 billion. And the Congressional Budget Office said $3 billion of that was just gone forever, permanently lost economic growth. All right, so let's bring it all back to today. What exactly is the holdup that's driving this historic 39-day and counting shutdown? This time, the battle is all centered on a major disagreement in the Senate. The issue? Extending premium subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. One side wants it in a major funding bill, the other side doesn't, neither side is blinking, and so here we are. The government stays partially closed. Now, when a shutdown happens, it's really important to know that not everything stops. Stuff that's deemed essential keeps going. So think air traffic control, military operations, mailing out Social Security checks. But a whole lot of other services just stop. National parks lock their gates, new federal loans are put on ice, and a ton of scientific research just gets disrupted. And the impact on real people is just huge. We're talking hundreds of thousands of federal workers who are either sent home without pay or told they have to work without knowing when they'll see their next paycheck. We're seeing real strain at airports now because of staffing. Crucial food aid programs are feeling the pressure, and economists are already saying this is going to be another multi-billion-dollar hit to the economy. So, with the stakes getting this high for so many people, the big question is pretty obvious. How does this all finally end? Well, there are usually three main ways out of this mess. The first is what's called a clean CR. That's our duct tape solution again, right? Just reopen the government for a bit to allow more time to talk. The second is a mini deal, where they pass the easy stuff everyone agrees on and just postpone the big fight. Or, number three, you get a grand bargain, where both sides make some kind of major trade-off to finally solve the real problem. So, what actually forces leaders to pick one of those options? Well, in a word, pressure. Public pressure. When things like air travel start getting shaky, or we get close to critical deadlines for healthcare, or maybe holiday services are threatened, that's when the political pain of keeping the shutdown going becomes way worse than the pain of making a deal. And that brings us to the final thought here. It's so easy to look at a shutdown and think the system is broken, that it's a mistake. But as we've seen, it's not a glitch. It's really become a feature of modern American politics. It's a powerful tool in a divided system. And so the real question it leaves us with is, as these things get longer and happen more often, what's the true cost of playing this game?